Hi, I'm Astoria, Oregon Mayor Bruce Jones with a COVID-19 update for May the 19th, the fifth day of our Clatsop County Phase 1 reopening. We had 3 new positive tests in the north part of the county today, bringing the total in the county to 41. Of those, 19 have recovered fully, and there have been no hospitalizations required. Last night, the Oregon Supreme Court put a hold on a ruling yesterday by a Baker County Circuit Court judge that appeared to declare all of the governor's COVID-19 executive orders invalid. At issue in the case are the powers and limitations granted the governor under Oregon law during a state of emergency. With the Supreme Court's hold on this ruling, we remain in Phase 1, and you can stand by for further legal developments. At last night's City Council meeting, we held a hearing on the city's application for 2 community development block grants, which will be applied for on behalf of Clatsop County. We've been working with Business Oregon for several weeks on this. One is a emergency small business and micro enterprise assistance grant for $150,000, which is the maximum allowed under this program. And the other is a $50,000 grant for PPE for public health workers and emergency responders, as well as to help defray the costs of community testing programs. The city's applying for these grants on behalf of the county because we have an established community development block grant program, and it's easier for us to get it through. The funding can't be released legally by the state until July 1, so if we are successful with our applications, these grants will be distributed via Business Oregon and administered for us by Northwest Oregon Regional Economic Development District. Our finance director, Susan Brooks, provided an update on our Parks and Recreation budget at last night's council meeting. The budget for the Parks and Rec is severely affected by the almost complete loss of transient lodging taxes, as well as by the state-mandated 1 July increase in the minimum wage. We laid off 92 part-time employees at the beginning of this crisis, and these 2 factors together will delay our ability to reopen parks, facilities, and programs this summer. State-mandated wage increases at a time of severely declining revenue is not very helpful either for local small businesses or local government services that rely on those part-time workers to keep our parks maintained in the summer. In any case, our aquatic center as a public pool is not envisioned to be reopened under the governor's reopening framework until at least Phase 3, and we don't know when Phase 3 will be. You can find an updated list of the restaurants and taverns that are open for either dine-in, carry-out, or delivery, or are still closed on the Astoria, Warrenton Area Chamber of Commerce website, along with a lot of other great information. As of today, there were 7 establishments out of about 100 on that list that have reopened for dine-in service. And thanks to Regina Wilkie at the Chamber for keeping that list updated for the community. If you haven't yet read through the specific opening guidelines for each business sector, you can find those at the Chamber of Commerce website or Google Business Oregon, and their website has a lot of great information as well. Clatsop County is offering a drive-through testing program. It's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and it's over on Williamsport Road next to the Recology Waste Transfer Station. Testing is open to all Clatsop County residents over 15 years old, but you do have to make an appointment. Call County Public Health at 503-325-8500. And their goal is to do 300 tests weekly. So, as I've mentioned before, reopening is a risk management decision. In the absence of any comprehensive national strategy to combat coronavirus, the state's reopening framework is an attempt to manage the risk of a community health crisis by opening the economy in a sustainable way. We'll be allowed to move to Phase 2 without delay on June 5 if we do our part. Whether we can or not depends in large part on us not becoming complacent. As time goes on, there'll be a tendency to do that. But if we continue practicing those public health guidelines regarding physical distancing, washing, and wearing masks around other people, we'll be successful. Monday, I spoke with a small business owner who was upset that visitors were coming in from Seattle and Portland into his business despite the ban on non-essential travel in both of our states. He doesn't want hotels back open to leisure travel yet. And the same day, I was contacted by another small business owner who was equally adamant that hotels should reopen now so that the businesses that rely on those tourists to stay alive would be able to get back in business. And both of these opinions were very heartfelt, and they reflect the wide range of reactions to this situation in our community. Some businesses are doing great. I spoke with the owner of a well-known large local electricians firm last week. They're as busy as ever. They're looking for more people to hire. But the pain of this crisis has been real for many people, especially those who after 7 weeks still have not received their unemployment benefits. On the other hand, we've heard of many employees who are making more now staying home than they were making when they were working through the combination of their state and federal unemployment benefits. While some local businesses opened first thing last Friday, others have said they're going to wait, either because they're concerned about the viability of their business model with the restrictions placed on them to operate by the state, or because they have concerns about the health of their employees or the public. Likewise, many of our residents have conflicting opinions. Some are excited to get into town and to go into the businesses. Others plan to stay home and shelter in place, and some are just not sure how they feel yet. And I think that range of reactions kind of mirrors the public opinion around the country. It's important to remember our county reopening plan was not approved because the virus is fading away, but because we've met 7 very specific state requirements for isolation, quarantine facilities, hospital capacity, PPE, the testing regimen, and tracing capacity, as well as trends in hospitalization and emergency room visits for COVID-19. So by the state standards, we are prepared to respond to an outbreak requiring hospitalization, and that's why we've been allowed to reopen. The state's sector-specific and general guidelines for reopening are intended to reduce the transmission of COVID-19 so we don't have an outbreak requiring hospitalizations. In other words, the guidelines are in place to prevent the worst outcomes so that we don't have to respond to the worst outcomes. In my previous career, we worked to prevent disasters from happening, and then we responded to them when they did. I can tell you that from both a cost perspective and especially a human tragedy perspective, prevention is always preferable to response. However, people tend to think they're invulnerable, and so they don't wear life jackets, and then when the unexpected happens and they fall overboard or their boat capsizes, they drown. People who can't see the virus, who don't know anyone who's been hospitalized with it, because we've been blessed in our county thus far, might tend to not want to wear a mask around other people or be so attentive to washing hands and disinfecting surfaces. But doing these things continues to be our first line of defense against a significant outbreak that would cause us to not meet the requirements for phase 2 on June 5. Or worse yet, it would require us to close our businesses down again later this summer in July or August or in September. Clatsop County's prohibition on leisure travel to hotels and other short-term lodging remains in effect until phase 2. And Astoria, Warrenton, and Gerhardt and the county are all in alignment on that policy. On Friday, Cannon Beach voted to reopen their lodging to tourists on May 26. Seaside is meeting tomorrow, May 20, to vote on that issue. Lincoln County has announced they're opening their lodging fully on June 1 and Tillamook County on May 29. The purpose of our prohibition on leisure travel use of lodging through phase 1 is to reduce the number of people coming to our community, coming to the North Coast, violating the governor's restrictions on non-essential travel while we're still working through phase 1. And for the same reason, Clatsop County's beach access points are closed on the weekends. We're trying to reduce the attraction for people to come to our county to visit when they don't have essential business here. It's not a perfect solution, but every little bit helps when the threat of the virus is still very real. So my message as we continue our phase 1 reopening is that we can help our businesses stay open, help our working neighbors keep their jobs, and help all of us stay healthy by continuing to follow public health guidance. Despite what your high school classmate may have posted on Facebook, The overwhelming consensus in the most recent studies that are coming out is that consistently wearing clean masks when you're around other people is highly effective in protecting others from the virus that you might unwittingly be spreading. If we're successful in continuing to keep the virus from causing hospitalizations in Clatsop County, in Astoria, our local businesses will start to get customers back and we'll be able to open on June 5 with phase 2 and get our local economy back on its feet. So I want to thank all of you who are working so hard to make our reopening successful. Whether it's business owners who are diligently bringing your facilities and your staff into compliance, or our citizens who are continuing to stay home and stay safe. I want to thank everyone especially for being mindful of the stress and anxiety and concern that we're all facing, and for being kind and empathetic and patient, even when it's not easy to do so. So thank you, and stay healthy.